What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We have Hung Mai here all the way. He's in Miami right now. I think he normally lives in Tampa, but he's here. He's right now at Pace's book signing, but he still took the time out to come onto the podcast, talk to me, and I really appreciate it because I know he could be partying right now. He could be networking, hanging out with Pace, but he decided to come on Skorch the Fears, and I really appreciate him. He's a great guy. I met you in person at Clever. That's the only time I think I've ever met you in person. And we've been needing to talk more because there are some interesting midterm rentals, short-term rentals. That's like his specialty, guys. So there's like cool opportunities that I will start bringing him as I get more leads across the country, as I get more famous. So it's awesome. And I just wanted like my audience to know him. And Hung, thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure, and I apologize in advance for the background noise. This is the quietest spot I could find in Miami, and so but it's really it's my pleasure, and it's an honor to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me onto the podcast.
I love it. So, Hung, when you were just starting out in real estate, right? What were your greatest fears? And like, how did you overcome them? Because that's the name of the podcast is Skorch the Fears. So what was your greatest fears, or what were some of your greatest fears, and how did you overcome them when you were starting out?
So some of my greatest fears, I think, was the fear of failure when you first get started. And I'm not new to failing because I actually started my journey back in like junior year of high school. So I've been on this journey for almost 10 years, like a decade now.
Wow.
On this journey.
Junior year of high school? Wait. Did you say you started
my
junior year of high school doing Airbnbs?
No, not Airbnb. It was
okay.
Like just entrepreneurship in general. And so from then on, like I tried network marketing. It was from one company to another, and then it was online marketing, agency marketing, doing real estate, like the retail side of things. And so the reason why I never got started in real estate was because the appeal of owning a long-term rental was never something that appealed to me. Like I heard one time someone says, "Yeah, I have 20 rental properties, and I'm making, I think it was like 4K a month or 5K a month." I'm like, 20 properties and you're making 5K a month? Like that's gonna take forever, right?
True.
And so that never like got me excited to do like real estate at all. And so that's why it deterred me from getting started. But back to like your question, my thing was, I think it was just not knowing, right? Like I think a lot of us, when we first get started, like we always try and just like take in as much information as possible and learn as much as possible, and then we kind of get full and we get this like dopamine hit that we've achieved something and that we've learned something and that we've done something. And so then after we learn it, we decide not to do anything about it because we were like, oh, I've done so much. Let me go relax. And like that was me for like the longest time. And the only thing that kind of changed for me was when I finally found someone that I could partner up with and lock arms with, and they kind of basically walked me through everything. They walked me through how to do X, Y, and Z, and I didn't have to depend on my own, lack of knowledge, but I lean on their experience and I lean on their confidence on what they already know.
I love it. I love it so much. So, okay. So so talk about your journey a little bit. So you didn't start with investing. You started junior year of high school. How'd you hear about real estate? Like, I don't understand how these high school students, you're like an older version of Andy Wrong. Like, how is this even possible? How did you hear about real estate? That was not even something I've ever even heard of at that age. So like, how did you know about it? Like what was your introduction?
Okay, yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah. So funny story, right? It wasn't real estate. It was a network marketing opportunity when I first like that's when I first heard about like entrepreneurship, and it was through um, a Skype call from a friend of mine from Atlanta, Georgia, and they called me and they talked about this amazing opportunity. I was like, oh my gosh, like that's so amazing. I didn't know what like entrepreneurship was and all that stuff. And so from then on, that was like how I learned about, oh, like you can do something once and it getting paid for it over and over again. And I think that's the premise of doing business, right? Like you doing something, you setting up the systems, you putting in all the hard work, and then eventually you build a real business. So that way you can step away and it will still work when you're not. And so that was like what was really appealing to me, because at that point in time, my family had a small business. They had a nail salon, and I knew how hard they worked. Like I know, like I saw hard work, but hard work that I saw, it didn't equate to having time freedom, and that was what I wanted. And I think that's what most people want, is they want time freedom to do what they want with who they want whenever they want, right? And so that was like the big
Love
appeal
it.
for me to kind of get into like business and get into entrepreneurship.
Gotcha. That totally makes sense. So you also were introduced to entrepreneurship as like as a kid, right? Like your family owned a nail salon. Like that is a classic. I don't know. Like I feel like I have a lot of Vietnamese friends. Are you Vietnamese? I feel like that. I'm not sure, but like
Yes,
I'm
I
curious.
yeah, I am.
Okay,
I
I
am
feel like that's the
Vietnamese. I am
classic
Vietnamese.
Vietnamese. That's the classic Vietnamese like immigrant story. I have like a few friends who are Vietnamese who also their families own nail salons. So classic. You learned hard work
Oh,
from
we
that.
we we dominate this corner of the market. So there's no way someone can come in and take it away from us.
I love it. No, no,
Unfortunately.
it's so true though. So I love it. The time freedom, that all of that definitely makes sense as to like what that attracted you to entrepreneurship, right? But let's talk about the fears for a second. You said the fear of failure, right? Like go more into that. What was going into your mind? And then like, did you have like a just do it attitude, or like how did you overcome that specific fear? Because that's one of the most common.
Yeah, no, I think there had to be a lot of things that I had to unlearn from my own family, because um, growing up, growing up, sorry, there's a cart guy going through.
It's
But
okay.
growing up, I had to I learned from my parents that, hey, if you want to do something right, you got to do yourself, right? If you want to get if you want to
Mm,
create a business, you have to be the best person in that business for it to flourish. And with that philosophy, till this day, they still are working in their business instead of on it. And
right.
so that was one of the things that I had to really unlearn, and also to believe in myself as well, because there's like little there's this kind of ironic fallacy in a Asian family's household, that um, that they have this dream to come over here and create a better life, and some of them decide to start a business, and with that, they would like to give their kids the best opportunity to go to school and get good grades, and then go and go into a career that's a prestigious, that they can hang their hat on, that my kid is a doctor, a lawyer,
Right.
all
Yeah.
that stuff, right? However, when they decide to go and pursue their own passion, or their own um, you know careers, and that they want in, um, then they get backlash from the family, because the family doesn't know anything else other than, I did all the legwork for you to go to school and get good grades and to do all this, and now you're deciding to throw it away and do this internet
Mm,
thing, or doing this thing that I don't know anything about, And so, then they throw out these, like, these little phrases that because they know you, they know the red buttons to press that will trigger you, right? Like my mom would always say, "Oh, like, oh, there you go, dreaming again." right? Oh, there you go, dreaming again. Oh, like, who do you think you are, and all that stuff. And here she is, having her own business and have her own portfolio and all that stuff. And they just can't connect the dots. And for the longest time, I was fighting for the support, and I soon realized that the only support I need was from myself.
Love
The only
it.
support, yeah, the only support that you need is from yourself, because if you're waiting for someone to come by and support you and motivate you, Jim Rohn says, what happened if that person doesn't show up?
True.
Right? You're going to just sit there and wait until, you're 40, 50, 60 years old. Because I think when we're younger, and, I'm talking to my people that's like in your 20s, you're like, oh, I'm not old enough, right? Like most people, they're older, and so they get more respect from their people that they talk to. And so I'm not old enough. And then they get to 30 and it's like, oh, I'm not old enough. And then they get to the 40 and they're like, now they have family and they have responsibilities. Like, oh, like now I have a family. Oh, I'm not young enough. It's like a reverse role. So
Jesus, yeah.
We have so much excuses that we fight for, and if you fight for it, you get to keep it. And that was really one of the things that I learned early on, was not to make excuses, because
I love
if I
it.
make it, I get to keep it.
True. I love it a lot. Like, honestly, I think it's really interesting. You might be the first Asian American that I've ever had, especially like an immigrant on. I don't know. I mean, like, your parents sound like they were immigrants. I don't know if you were born in America or if you were born in Vietnam, but I want you to go into that a little bit, especially for like Asian American entrepreneurs. Like, I've heard this so much in like Asian communities of how a lot of times there's such a strict pathway to success that's been drilled into your parents, right? I don't know. I think they just come from like, that's just how they make the most money, right? Like that's the American dream, is to get good grades, become a doctor, become a lawyer, do something that's like a really high skilled W-2, so that you're 100% guaranteed success in life, right? How do you get over that? Like I understand you were talking about it a little bit with the you rely on yourself, but if is that exactly what you would say to like a younger you, or like a younger, let's say like a younger Asian American entrepreneur, 20, 21, comes to you and it's like, yeah, like I want to do this, but my parents really don't approve. They think I'm being an idiot by dropping out of college or whatever. Not saying you dropped out, but like, let's just say like dropping out of college or doing whatever to pursue my passion, pursue my dreams. What should I do? How do you deal with your parents, if that makes sense? Like, that's kind of my question.
Oh, I am a master at this. You asked the right person today. Okay.
Love it.
If there is anything that I've learned throughout this journey, is that the people that you tend to, the reason why you set out on this journey to do what it is that you need to do, and you're typically doing it for your family, right? You're trying to retire your mom, you're trying to retire your dad, your family. However, it's the same people that you're doing it for. It's the one that are putting you down most of the time.
Right.
And that's really hard for people to like understand and grasp. And it was for me too, because I'm like, why are you like this to me? Like, the reason why I'm doing this is to have a better future for you and to retire you and X, Y, and Z, right? However, you have to realize that you don't need their approval to do what it is that you need to do. And I learned a lot about this through listening to guys like Gary Vee and Jim Rohn and Les Brown and Tony Robbins. And
Love all of them. Those are all great
I'm gonna
ones.
touch, yeah, and I'm gonna touch on that in a little bit. And so the thing about that is that you have to talk to them. For people that are outside of your family, the people that bring you down, they're like cancer. And what do you do with cancer? If you find out that you have cancer in your body today, what do you do with it? You cut it out like immediately, right? You don't say, oh no, just let it hang out there for a little bit more. It's perfectly fine, right? You have to treat the negative people in your life like they're
But
cancer.
Hung, it's your parents.
Exactly. And so, to my point, when it's your family, you just have to cut down on the time that you speak with them significantly. And what I mean by that, it's like during those periods, like I was talking to my parents maybe like 15 minutes at a time, 20 minutes at a time max. So that way we only touch on topics that are not related to what I am currently doing right now. And when it does start coming to the point on where they start talking to me about what it is that I'm doing, I just kind of block it out, and I don't listen to it. And then I go and I revert myself back to listening to people that that will will grow me spiritually, will grow me like mentally, that will fill me up. It's funny, right? Like your mom and your dad, they will physically fill you up with food any day of the week. Like they love you, and that's like their love language. They will make food for you, right? Like that's how they
Yeah,
say sorry. Instead
100%.
of saying sorry, they'll make food and say, "Here you go," right? Like that's how they say sorry. However, they'll never fill you up with like words of affirmation. They'll never fill you up with words of like, "Oh, like you did a great job." Oh, like keep going, keep trying, right? And and it's hard to blame them if you understand where they came from. And so, right now, the reason why they're like that is because as their kid, they want what's best for you. And like it's hard for them to see it when they don't see any evidence of it yet. And so,
Right.
in the meantime, what you have to do is you really have to brainwash yourself into thinking and having a vision of where it is that you want to go. Because now, like if I like if in whoever it is that's in front of me, and they say they want to do something, I would say, okay, like what is it that you really want, right? Like, have you really thought about it? Like, have you vividly like imagined what it is that you really want? Like, how would that look like? How would that make you feel? All of those feelings and visions are what's going to help pull you through some of that like tougher days, because those tougher days are gonna come. Like, you just have to realize it. I think Les Brown says you're either in a storm, going through a storm, or going out of the storm, right? And so if you're in a storm right now, like if things aren't going well right now, just know you're going through a storm right now, and eventually you're gonna leave it. And if everything is working amazing and great right now, just know that you're about to go into a storm, and be prepared for it. And so if you know that you're going into a mentally hard time with either your family or friends and stuff like that, then be prepared for it, and then it will be less of an impact when it does happen, right? And those things will come at you real quick. And the minute that you decide that you know what it is that you want for your life, the universe or God or whoever it is that you believe in will start to they will start to test you. Like they'll be like, okay, this is what you want. Okay, here's a birthday party that they're gonna invite you to. Here's like friends, weekend warrior friends that are gonna bring at that they're gonna invite you out to, for a good time. Here's like, anniversary. Here's X, Y, and Z. There's all kinds of things that are gonna pull you in all type of different directions. Relationships and all that other stuff. But you have to realize, like, once you figure out what it is you want, the universe is going to test you. It's like they're saying to themselves, they're like, is this guy really about what he says that he's about? Like, is it really that thing that he wants to? And so if it's not, you're gonna get distracted, and you're gonna do any other thing except the thing that you're supposed to do, that's gonna get you to where you want to go.
It's true. Like 100%. I just want to echo what you're saying right now in the sense of like focus and clarity is like 100% what you need. And I know it's hard if there are family members to cut them off, but like you're 100% right of like that's just what you have to do. Like that's what you have to do if you're struggling through it. If you have family members who are toxic or maybe not even toxic, just negative, like just like don't believe in your dreams, right? Like friends, all of them, just cut them out because you need to be listening to things that are going to grow you. Now, I'm curious for you, Hung. how did you find out about Les Brown, Jim Rohn, Gary Vee? Like, how'd you find these people? Like, did you like, was it just randomly on YouTube one day, or what? Like, how did you find the voices that led you towards the entrepreneurship and the success you have now?
So, so funny how it all like come full circle. It was because of through like the like network marketing opportunities that I was doing. It was really like a personal development like course disguised as a business throughout the whole process. And like because of that personal development that was always going on in the background, that it helped to fight off some of the natural negative thoughts that would come through to me all the time. And I think that for the majority of the population of people, they don't realize that they can control their thoughts, or they don't realize that they are not their thoughts, right? Like just because you feel sad today doesn't mean that you have to stay sad today, right? Like if you feel sad, you can recognize that, oh, like I'm feeling sad. What can I do to feel better, right? And then it's all about how you ask the questions, right? Like the quality of your life is based on the quality of questions that you ask yourself. So if let's
I
say
just want you to repeat that one more time because I really feel like people don't get this. Just like say that one more time about the sadness. How like you can feel sad, but that doesn't mean you have to be sad. Like I love that because people miss that. And that's like everything.
that is, and so like the so you don't so even if you feel sad today, you don't have to be sad today, right? You can control your thoughts and you can change your thoughts. You're not a tree, okay? You're not a duck where like come winter and you have to go south, right? Like come winter we can go north to New York if we want to, okay?
Right.
So so you can control your thoughts, but most majority of people don't realize that. And I learned that through a book called Think and Grow Rich. That you can control your thoughts, that you can, recognize that you as the person in the vehicle, and the vehicle is your body, right? It's kind of like how like sometimes you have dialogue with yourself, and this is like
100%.
this gets really trippy if you don't follow. But like you have like internal conversations like, oh man, should I really do that right now? Like, oh, like I someone gave me, or I found $100, right? Should I pick it up and go return it to the bank where I found it in, right? Or should I just keep it? Like no one said anything, right? And like there's like this inner voice that's, oh, you should keep it, or oh, you should do the right thing and bring it back, right? And so that voice, it's like the conscious mind. And I know this gets trippy. I know, like if you told me this like early on, I would have like phased out too. And I hate the I hate the advice when someone new that's starting on their journey, they ask like, um you know how how can I get started when my family is not very supportive. And my thought is like you have to cut them out, because
Hmm.
the thing is they don't realize that, and they feel guilty. And I'm like I'm I'm an expert in this because I went through it. Okay, you feel guilty because your family is depending on you for X, Y, and Z, and maybe you're not. You didn't start on a very good foot. Your family didn't have a very good financial foundation and all that of that stuff. However, you have to realize that if you're not selfish with your time now, and you give it all away, well, now when they're young and they can still work, you can be selfish. And they might not like you right now. However, once you dedicate and invest enough time into yourself on your craft, and then you can go make money off of it later on, when you have that financial success and then you can give back, it all magically disappears and they forget everything about it, right? But
That's
if you
so
think of,
true.
if you think about it, if you think about here, like in an alternate universe, if you think about like if you just go ahead and follow everything their family says to do, right? Hey, like I need you to go pick up this. I need you to go come and help me out with this. I need you to do X, Y, and Z. If you do all of that and then you don't do what you need to do to get like where you need to go on your path, what tends to happen is that eventually, if you imagine yourself 10 years from now doing the same thing and then nothing has changed, you're going to eventually resent your parents or whoever it is that you're staying with, because you're like, because of you I didn't do what I needed to do to get to where I wanted to go. You're going to hate them
Right.
because they were the one who stopped you from doing
And in
what
the end, it's
what
your
you needed
fault,
to do.
not their fault. In the end, it's on
Exactly.
you to make it happen, right? Like it wasn't your goddamn
Exactly.
parents. Like you made the decision not to do the thing. So are you gonna be on your deathbed and are you gonna be okay with not having taken the risk on the business? Or are you gonna be like completely regretful for the rest of your goddamn life? Right. And you gotta think that's how I do it personally, is like how I get people to get over this type of stuff is like, let's say you died tomorrow. Would you be happier if you had done it or not done it? If you were on your deathbed
Exactly.
tomorrow, what would you have wanted to do? Would you have rather failed with like the lost money and time? Like let's say you completely fail. Let's say you suck. You never were going to make it. It was the worst decision of your life. Would you have rather done it and at least known, or would you have rather not done it and never known? Right. It's literally like, why not at least try? Right. Because what's the point? What's the point of life? Life is to try new stuff and take risks and see what's going on and try to make it the best and dopest thing you can possibly make it be. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah. And
echoing you.
Elon's yeah, and Elon Musk says this: life is about the mitigation of um, regret. Is going through life and making sure that you have the least amount of regret by the end of it.
Yep. 100%, 100%, man. So I'll get back to your story a little bit. So when you cut them off in network marketing, like were you living on your own? I mean, were you a junior in high school still? You probably were still living with them, or was this like college? Like where are we in your story?
Yeah, so back then I was still living at home. Like I was living at home for the majority of my life, and I actually still do.
Wait, so how did
Live
you
live.
cut them out? You can't fully, like
So
you said, only 15, 20-minute conversations, but you were living with them?
yeah, so okay, so how that
That's
works is
crazy.
my parents, they still have their business that they have now, and so 9 a.m. they're out of the house, and then they don't come back until like 8, 9 o'clock at night, sometimes even 10 o'clock at night. And so I just see them for dinner, and that's typically when I have conversations with them. Now, prior to that, I was also working for them like 3 to 4 days out of the week for like 10 to 12 hours a day. And so the whole time, what I mean by
You
that
say
is
10
you
to
had to
12 hours a day? Sorry, did I hear that right?
yeah, yeah.
Wait a minute.
If you know,
You work for them for 10 to 12 hours a day and then you also had a business?
yeah, so it's so my day, so I work
Crazy.
for them kind of part-time or full-time, if you think about like American 40-hour work week, right? So Friday to Sunday is when I typically work. Sometimes I'll go in Thursday, and then sometimes I go in a little bit more as well, when they're short staffed. And the only days that I get, like, my weekends are my Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and maybe sometimes Thursday. So
Right.
out of those 4 days is the only days I can go and work on my future, like doing something. When I'm at the salon, I'm there all the time, and working at a salon, like if you've had a pedicure, it's always hands on. Like I can't go and research and do anything when I'm working.
Literally, it's always hands
Right.
on.
It's always hands on. Yeah, exactly. So I couldn't do anything. So I realized that my escapes is the 4 days that I have, and out of those 4 days, 6 years ago, I started having a relationship with my girlfriend that I'm currently with now. And so I promised that I would give her 1 day. Since so now my 4 days became 3 days, the only 3 days out of the week I have to go and build my future. And she was not always a very happy camper because she wanted
Right.
more time together. And I told her, like, I'm very straightforward. I told her, babe, I love you, but however, let's say I spend all 4 days with you. Okay, let's say I spend all 4 days with you, and then 5 years from now, I have nothing to show for it. What's gonna happen is you're probably not gonna see a future with me, and then you're probably gonna dump me and go with someone else. That's
Right.
the reality. And so you have to set these like upfront contracts with like the people that's in your life, especially your significant other. If they're not on board with it, like that's probably going to be one of the big determining factor if you're going to make it or not. It's your significant other and who it is that you're with, because they're the one that has the most access to you. And if you don't,
Right.
if if you're not intentional with your day, someone else will have intention for your day for them.
How did you learn how to do that? Like, how did you learn how to freaking set those upfront contracts? Because it took me a while to learn how to do that. To like, my first year of business, I never told my mom anything, and she would walk into my room, and it would be super annoying. And then eventually, I was like, okay, I got to do something about this. So I like let her know, never do that again. But like, how did anyone teach you how to do that? Did you have any mentors that taught you how to do that, or was it like just something where you realized it just needed to be done?
Yeah, so I knew that, I mean, at the beginning I wasn't so great at doing that, obviously. It was eventually I knew that I had to be selfish with my time. And like, bluntly, it is what it is. You have to be selfish, because if you're not selfish now, you're gonna be you're gonna be a handicap later, right? Like, you can't help others, like you can't fill other people's cup if your cup is empty, right? So you have to fill yourself first. And if that looks like it's selfish, then you need to be selfish. However, it's more so that if you know what it is that you want, you can. I always say this, okay? If you know what you want, then you know what the price will be, and if you know what the price will be, you'll be willing to pay for the willing to pay for the price. But if you don't know what it is that you want, you won't have clarity in terms of what the price is worth. Meaning, the price is the sacrifices, the late nights, the waking up early in the morning, the not eating X, Y, and Z, or whatever the case may be, right? Because that's the main thing. It's You have to have clarity, or else things in your life are gonna take you and derail you, and you're just gonna become just like anyone else, because it's easy to follow the route that's already there. What all of you
Mm.
that's listening to this is trying to do is time freedom. And time freedom, it's not for the faint of heart. Like, you don't just accidentally fall on top of a hill, right? You have to
Right.
work for it. And so if you know what it is that you want, then you can set your intentions. You can set like the vision for the people that are in your life, and let them know, okay, like, this is the journey that I'm going on. Here's some of the sacrifices that I'm willing to make. Are you like in line with that? And if they're not, perfect. It wasn't for them. Like, nothing against them. It's just that that's not what they're looking for. And if you realize that you're not losing anything, if you're allowing them to go and find someone or find something that is what it is that they're looking for, then you can have a better opportunity to have the person that's actually aligned with you to walk into your life. And they will eventually walk into your life. It's just that you're you have to become the person that you need to be first, and for that person to walk into your life. And early on, that was a tough conversation for me and my girlfriend, because that wasn't something that she was used to. But I knew what I wanted, and I told her, if I'll do anything that you want, but if you make me give up on my dream, I might as well not date you, because if I give up on my dream,
It's
I'll
not gonna
probably give
work.
up on you too. Like, I'll probably give up on you too if I give up my dream.
Right. No, it totally makes sense. And sometimes you have to have those really honest conversations with the people that you love, right? Like even if you love them. I mean, it's amazing that she still supported you, and that's awesome because that's the only way that you guys are still together at this point, which is super, super, super cool. So, going into, so let's go through your story a little bit. So, how did you find out about real estate specifically? How did the network marketing transfer into real estate? How did that all start?
Yeah, so the last thing that I was doing beforehand was I heard about this thing called wholesaling. And prior to wholesaling, I was doing online marketing for, I think, like realtors and stuff like that, which is like so ironic, right? Um,
Love
and
it.
so I was this was 2020, and I just moved out, and so my clock was ticking, and so I was trying everything to like make sure I was trying anything to see if I can get something to stick, right? Because I didn't, at that point I was still working for my family, and I was still, you know, I felt like I was at a dead end job because my parents' business is just a small business. There's no promotion. There's no, you know, six figures or anything like that, right? And
Right.
I knew that okay, if if I look at my parents and I continue on this path and pursue what it is that they're currently doing, do they have the lifestyle that I want? And the answer was no. They didn't have time freedom. They were always stuck at their business, and they were at the mercy of, their employees and their business, because they didn't have a system in place, and they didn't have the right people in place and all of that. And they're still in that same process today. And nothing against them. They're just doing the best that they can with what they know, right? And so when I had moved out, oh my God, it was mayhem. Like, they called me every single name in the book the day I moved out, because it was finally real to them. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, like, you don't know what it is that I've done for you, X, Y, and Z, and
Wait, wait, wait.
you
Was
un
this, had you made it in business yet, or were you just like it's too much, or why did you move out when you
no,
moved out, or
no, 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 no. Like, this was me. I've never moved away. Okay, so like, how like when you're American, you go to college and then you get to move out and kind of like experience the
yeah,
college experience, right?
yes.
Here's how my conversation with my mom went. I asked her in the car. I said, "Hey, I'm about to go to UCF next year, and I want to move over there so I can be closer to campus and all that stuff." And she said no, and then she left the car and she closed it, and that was how the conversation
Okay,
went.
okay. Gotcha.
Okay, so
Okay, so
so
then why did you move then at that point? Was it like what
because
triggered you to do it?
you know, I'll be honest, it was because I was so comfortable that I felt like all my needs were met. Like, I had a roof under my head, I had food that, my mother was making every single night. I had a car that I was driving I didn't have to pay for. Like, all of my necessities is filled already. So like, if you're looking from the outside, I was like, I got everything. Like, I have a parent that provides for, like, what else more can you look for, right? But I knew that, like, long term, if I don't create something for myself as a man, then eventually what's gonna happen is I'm going to just be a like a ticking time bomb, and I'm just gonna feel like this pit of like nothingness because I didn't do anything with my life, and I knew that I had something to offer to the world, And so if I kept going on this kind of road and staying home, I wasn't gonna amount to anything. And everything that I've tried, I didn't try hard enough. I felt like I didn't go out and meet enough people. Every time I needed to go to an event or go somewhere, I had to ask my parents, like, oh, is it all right if I go out here? And
Right.
hey, I'm gonna go
And
to this
how
event and
old
I'm
were
gonna
you?
stay a little late. I was like in my in my so this was what, 2 years ago when I moved out. So I was 25, 24, 25.
Right.
That was like the first time I ever moved out. And so once I moved out, it was like it was like this loud, like, peer pressure noise. It just disappeared. Like, I could think for myself. I could do things without asking for permission. It was just a lot of
Yeah.
headspace that was taking up a lot of space. And so I think that's probably one of the things that, if you haven't done so, like, and you're like asking your family member to support you, well, you have to ask yourself, like, these hard questions, like, are you taking money from your family? Like, are you taking money from your parents? Because if you are, like, how dare you ask for their support? Like, you're living on their dime and you're asking them to support you, right? And so if you want to try and go out there and do something with your life, then do it on your own dime. And then that way you don't have to feel guilty that, oh, you said no to helping them X, Y, and Z, to a chore, to picking up groceries, or
Right. I was about to
those
say,
little
or
things
if you
add up.
are living with them, realize that like your payment is through the chores, which is going to take away from your drive and your ability to do more
Exactly,
crazy
exactly,
stuff. So there's a cost to it either way.
exactly. Because you feel guilty, right? Like, you feel like there's this, like, uneven balance of, like, give and take. You always felt like you're in debt to them if you're living at home, right? And you're not paying anything. And so that was what I was feeling. If, like, I felt guilty if I didn't do it. But literally, it was one of the best decisions ever, was to move out and be on my own, because now I have to figure out something. Like, it was do or die. Like, if I return home, that was like the definition of failure for me, right?
So
And
what
so
so what happened? So like what, like you wanted to burn the bridges, right? I can tell. I had somewhat of a similar thing. I was living with my parents when I initially did entrepreneurship, and definitely it was really annoying because it was like hard, because you have to do those things. You have to do chores, you have to be with the family, you have to do things way more with your family if you're going to live in their house, right? And then eventually I moved out once I had a few wholesale deals, so I felt like comfortable moving out. But I know that burning the bridges feeling, because my story is I was like, I got entrepreneurship, or I got nothing. I don't have a girlfriend. I made 5K to my name and I was 25, right? Like, I had done nothing. I had not, like, I mean, I graduated college, but I had made no money so far. So talk about like, talk a little bit about the power of burning the bridges, just a little bit, because I think it's really important. And I think like the most successful entrepreneurs do it, and what you think of like the power of doing that.
can you repeat that last sentence, because I think it lagged a little bit?
Like burning the bridges, like how, like talk a little bit about burning the bridges and like how that affected your journey, like your ability to do it, like what would have happened if you'd stayed, if you hadn't burned the bridges, for instance.
Yeah. So if I had stayed, I would have been comfortable. I would have been probably still working for my parents. I would have been anywhere. I would have resented myself. I would have hated myself more and more every single day, because
Right.
I was making the same resolution goal every single New Year. And I was sick of it. I was sick of myself. Like, I didn't
What
want
was the
to
goal? What was the goal?
making $10,000 a month.
Right. Gotcha.
Like, that was the goal. I wanted to be financially free so I can depend on myself and do things for my family. But I can't do it if I don't take action. And especially if you're a guy, like, it's a lot tougher on you. Like, if you're a girl, I I it's a touchy subject, but I have a special place in my heart for guys, because it's a lot tougher for us guys, right? Like, if you don't become someone, like a person of value, if you don't become someone of a person of value and bring something to the table, you're not going to have a girlfriend, you're not going to have a family, because that all takes money. right? You're like no one is gonna come and take care of you, right? Like the government is not gonna come and take care of you. It's hard for guys out there, right? Now, if you're a girl, it's a little bit like a little bit easier because honestly, if my girlfriend decides to stay like be a stay-at-home mom or don't work at all, I'm like perfect. Like I'm here for you. I will support you 100%. Don't work. I'll
Right.
pay everything, right? But if you're a guy, you try and not have a job for like 3 months.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen? Your girlfriend's gonna leave you. You're gonna be broke, and you're gonna be out on the streets. Okay,
There's
like
definitely
the
more
world is very
pressure on
tough on a
guys.
guy.
There's definitely more pressure on guys.
Exactly.
I agree with that. Yeah, I
Right.
definitely see it
Exactly.
for sure. You can keep
Yeah.
going.
No. Exactly. And so all of these things that I was trying, like all of these things I was trying when I was in apartments, like when I heard about wholesaling, that's when I started like looking into it, and I was making calls for like 3 hours in my closet, because like we have really thin walls in my apartment, and so my two roommates, I can hear everything that's going on over there, and they can probably hear me. So I every time I make calls, I have to go into the closet and make calls, and so like it was from there, um, at that same point, and this is going into like where what I'm doing currently now. Like
Right.
at that point, I was starting to manage my parents' rental properties. Like they had a couple of rental properties, and so I was starting to manage it. And there was one property that wasn't doing very well. It was
Wait,
it
hold on.
wasn't
I want to
renting out.
interrupt you for a second. So eventually your parents, it sounds like your parents were super mad at you, but then they forgave you because they're letting you manage their rental properties. Am I right about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, like they were very, very mad. Don't get me wrong. However, the at the time the real estate agent that we had used up until this point, she was managing our books, and she was managing it like by hand writing it in her notebook, and it was like a bunch of scribbles, and we couldn't
Jesus.
follow it, and the security deposit was sent to her, and like we don't know if she gave it to us or if like she still have it, and she says that she already gave it. So like because of those reasons, that's when I was like, okay, I'll take it over, and like I'll manage it and what X, Y, and Z. And so like at the time they were still mad at me. Don't get me wrong, but honestly, here's the funny thing though. Like eventually what happened is that um when I moved out, my relationship with my parents actually got way better
Yeah.
because now we don't have time to fight each other. When we see each other, it's like, oh my gosh, are you eating enough? What's going on? Oh, you should come home. Like
I love
I'll
it.
take care of you, right? And so it's funny because that's what most people are scared of. They're scared of the guilt that leaving home and their parents being fending off for themselves. Like I know the whole like feeling, but you have to be selfish at the beginning to be able to get to that point to help them. Because if you're giving all of your time to everyone else but yourself, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're gonna hate yourself for it later on. Like, no question about it. And so yeah, so that's how I got started in kind of like the real estate a little bit. And so I learned about real estate a little bit from the wholesaling side as I got more and more into it. And then what happened was, when I started managing some of the long-term rental properties, one property wasn't renting out for like 1 or 2 months, so like it was kind of bleeding. So
Hmm.
I reached out to a good friend of mine that I met at a Tony Robbins event, and at that time it was like 2 years ago. He said he was starting this like Airbnb thing. So I was like, okay, perfect. It's been 2 years. He's probably got like, he's probably know everything about it, right? So I reached out to him, and he's like, yeah, Hung, like this thing is gonna do really well. Um, let me go, let me go, go there and show you how to do it. And mind you, this guy lived 2 hours away. So I'm like, what's your intention, right? And so I'm like, okay, like he probably wants something out of this deal. And I'm like, I don't care. Like my thing was, okay, as long as this thing, don't lose my parents' money, I'm happy, right? Like I don't care. And he's like,
Right.
okay, like this thing is gonna do really well, and but however, you're gonna need like $10,000. I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'm giving you $10,000. Like I
Right.
you know, I don't like the fear of most people when they first get into short-term rental is that they're like, what happens if no one books my place? What happens? Like, where are these people coming from? Or are they dropping out of thin air? Like, what's happening, right? So that was like my same fear. It's like, what happened if I put this $10,000 down to like furnish this property and then no one shows up? So I didn't do it. I ended up not doing it. And however, at the same time, this was around.
Do you regret it? Do you regret it?
No. I'm gonna circle back to it. Okay.
Okay.
So at the same time, I was still living at my apartment with my two roommates, and they are we were supposed to end our lease on January. However, we forgot to send in our non-renewal letter 2 months prior, so they made us stay another 2 months. So now it got extended to March, right? And they're like, this is January. They're like, hey, Hung, like we're gonna leave anyways, and you know, like we already got plans to do X, Y, and Z. They're like, we'll still pay rent, we'll still pay X, Y, and Z. So you know, you can stay here until March if you want, but we're out. And so I said, okay, perfect. I was like, perfect. What? Like I convinced them to leave their furniture there, like their current furniture, their bed, the couch, like all of it, right? All of it. They were planning on taking it with them. And so I was like, guys, like leave this here. Let me try this thing out. And if it works, like you guys can come back. Like I'll buy the furniture off of you guys, so you don't like you can go buy new furniture. But worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out, come back in 2 months, pick up your furniture like you were supposed to. Like no big deal, right? My goal was really to just make enough so that way I can pay their portion, so I can live there like rent free, basically, right? That was my main goal. Well, anyways, long story short, after like 4 to 5 days on the going live, we got a 5 to 6 week booking for 2 beds and 2 baths shared, 2 shared bed and bath.
Nice.
For $4K.
Nice.
And my rent, here's the thing. My rent, like our total rent was $2,100. I'm like, holy shiz.
Nice. So you made
There's
2K.
something here. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm rich, right? Like this is a time when like in a month I make about maybe 3K. Right? Like a month I make 3K typically. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like, oh, this is amazing. And the following Monday, like funny enough, the property management person that I know well, she called me. She's like, hey Hung, like I saw there's this listing on Airbnb. Is it yours? I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, what's going on? She's like, well, what's going on is it goes against your lease policy and you can't do that.
Oh
right?
no.
So literally all of my hard work setting this up and all that, I had to shut it down. And I actually still tried to host them and gave them all the instructions. And I told them, whatever you do not go into the front desk because they will not help you. And the first thing they did when they got there was they went in there and they said, hey, we're checking into our Airbnb. So I obviously never got to see any of that money, but it gave me the proof of concept I needed to go and do the house that was like vacant.
Because you believed in it now. Now there was the proof of concept and you believed in it.
Now there was a proof. Yes. Now there's a proof. Like someone can tell you today that you can do this and make $1 million a year. You might get excited about it, but until you like actually made a cent from it, you don't actually internally, subconsciously believe it, right? And so now when I actually saw that, I'm like, okay, I'm game, I'm all in, let's do this. So when I saw that, I'm like, okay, perfect. I'm willing to go into it and I'll invest in, you know. And so eventually what I did was I maxed out my credit card like any great like real estate investor did.
I did that. I did that too, by the way. Did you do the 0%? Do you do the 0% credit cards?
Oh no, even better. I did my personal credit card.
Like, oh, no.
No, I did everything that I wasn't supposed to. But I think most people's fear is that like they're afraid that what happened if I spend all this money and it doesn't work out, right? And the thing you have to realize is that, let's say even if worst case scenario this thing fell, or yeah, fail, and I didn't make a cent off of it. Well, I just go to work and I'll pay down this debt and I'll start over. But on the flip side, what happened if this thing works? That means everything, all the past failures that I've ever done wouldn't even matter anymore, right? You only need to succeed once to make every failure like be like a shadow in what it is that you're currently doing now. And that's
So
the thing that
true.
most people have to realize is that you only need to succeed once. Once you succeed once, it's game over. Like you don't, everything else was so worth it, right?
It's so true. It's so true. And then like how many Airbnbs do you own now, my man? Because like that we heard the full upgrade to it. Like how many Airbnbs do you own? How many are you managing? Like where are you at now?
Yeah, so right now I currently have 18 properties under management
Let's
in
go.
7 states. Yeah, and in 7 states. And so by the end of the year, we should end up with at least 40 at least 40 probably.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. See, like I just wanted to do it because I wanted people to see it as well. And how long ago was that moment that with your renting? Like how long ago was that? Like 2 years, three
Uh
years?
that was so that was so I started this real estate journey in January, February of 2021.
2 years.
So about a
Two
little over
years.
2 years.
That's crazy,
Yep.
man. That's freaking awesome. I love to hear it. And I just wanted to like emphasize that to hype you up because that's freaking amazing. And also to say, guys, it doesn't take that long in real estate. It can happen in 2 years. I'm only 3 years into this game, right? Like, and I'm doing a bunch of wholesaling. I'm buying a bunch of wraps that I'm trying to wrap out, right? So like, yeah, like I love this game and I love how it works and how it goes and all of that. And you're just a shining example, man. So like, I don't want to waste I mean, not waste your time. I don't want to use too much of your time because I know you're at the book signing and you want to go to Pace. But there is one last question I always ask before I start letting people go on the Skorch the Fears, and that's this: if you could go back to Hung Mai right when he's getting into let's say right when you're getting into entrepreneurship and when you're getting into real estate, what would you tell him, knowing everything that you know now?
I would say I would say a couple of things. I mean, like if I could talk to my younger self, I would let them know like, all like the insecurities that they have. It's you can overcome it by becoming a better person, and that you don't have to take people's opinion of you as a reality, right? Like their opinion of you is not your reality. You don't have to internalize it and believe it just because they say so. And so that's one thing that I would say. The other thing I would say is believe and think bigger much sooner.
Right.
I was thinking small really for a really long time. And I would I would think bigger much sooner. And I would find a mentor to help me through the either if it's a mentor or if it's a partner. um it's really the way that you want to go about it, because they will help to be a battle buddy that you can like echo your problems to, but also like celebrate your wins with. um and I would also say, believe in, like, I hate the answer that I'm giving right now, but it's so true. And I like my 18-year-old self would hate me for saying this. Like, but it's so true. Like you have to believe in yourself first before you can do anything, because like
Mm-hmm.
both, me and you can give anyone, the blueprint on how to do and what to do. And how many reps to do it. But if you don't believe in it, the way that you talk to other people, they can feel it, and they can they can know that you're not that serious. And so you really have to sell yourself on it as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, on the vision that you want for your life. Because if you can do
Right.
that, then you can start attracting those people into your life much quicker, much sooner, and fail quickly. If you're not failing, you're not going in the right direction.
I love it. There's so much there. There's so much good stuff there. My man, I appreciate you so much for coming on. What do you want me to plug? What can my community do for you? Like, what are you looking for in business and life? How can we help you out?
No, honestly, I really don't want to like ask anything, to be honest. Like, I just want you to like win and be better in life. Like I'm a perfect example of like, if I like, if my little brother is sitting right next to me right now, he would tell you straight up. He's like, oh yeah, like if he can do it, anyone can do it. Like, I'm not that smart. I'm not that special, right? Like you think that you have to be some special person to be able to do what it is that you're doing, but you don't. Half the time I can barely, say a sentence like correctly. Like, my friends are always correcting my vocabularies and stuff like that. But it's because I'm true to myself, and I'm always like saying what I mean and mean what I say, is that I'm able to attract people like you, Jonah, into my life. Like, I really appreciate like our friendship. And that's why I really wanted to uphold like my end, and making sure that I come on and I provide as much value as I can to your community, because really that's what it's all about. It's not about like real estate. It's about like helping you to better your life, because you might be in a situation right now and you don't think that you can do it, because your family has told you enough time that you're not good enough, and that you won't amount to anything. But you are good enough. Like, you've already won the battle of like being on this earth and being here currently. And if you're willing to search it out for it, and you have a vision, and you're willing to do whatever it takes, then anything is possible. And here's the last thing that I want to leave everyone is, you have to make a decision. It might take a month, it might take a day, it might take a year, it might take 5 years to get to that decision, but you have to make a decision today. Like, today, I am going to do whatever it takes to get me to where I want to go. And wherever that like location or end result is, you have to know it like the back of your hand. You have to know how it feels to be there. You have to know why you're doing it. You have to know like, how much money it is that you want to make, by what time it is that you want to make. Like, all of those things you have to know, because it's going to be hard if you're trying to do this you're trying to pursue this path. It's going to be really hard, and there's going to be people who's going to pull you down, and it's going to be the people closest to you that's going to do it, because it's like the people that you don't know, like those are the people that's going to be easy to say no to. But the people that are super close to you, if you don't know what it is that you want, they will you're not going to do them you're going to do them a disservice by not knowing where it is that you want to go, and how soon it is that you want to get there. And that's why you got to make a decision. And if you make a decision, you're going to have clarity, and then you can like go through some of the distraction and say no to it. But if you don't have clarity on what it is that you want, and where it is that you're going, any distraction is going to get you off of your track, and you're gonna hate yourself for it.
I love it so much, my man. Just preaching right now. I love how you ended it. Well, guys, I know at least you can follow him on IG. Put his IG in there, Hung V Mai. He's got some cool content. I've seen some of his content. It's pretty lit. Are you looking for more clients, like more Airbnb clients? Like, are you looking to take on more people, or what's the dealio with that?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I am taking on more clients. I am picky in terms of like the type of clients I do, because I only take on clients that I know I can help add value. Like that's the whole point of me managing it, because if you're already doing great, like, why would you need me, right? And so unless I know that I can provide value in that aspect, then I wouldn't take it. Now, I would also, of course, help like even like give consulting if that is something that you need and you want to keep going the way that you're going, but you just need like to a couple of like pointers and stuff like that. That's okay too. But for sure, I'm up for getting more clients and having a conversation to see if it makes sense. I'm an investor first off, and so I never want to like sell. I want to make sure that the numbers make sense for you first, and what is it that like your goal is as an investor, because that's what you are when you have one of these properties. You're an investor, so I want to make sure that you're making money and you're making the numbers that it is that you're looking for, or the goal that it is that you're looking for. So that way we can have, we can reach that goal together instead of just, me taking you on and you not knowing anything.
He's a great guy. He's not going to just take your money and make you lose money is basically what I'm hearing right now, which is pretty sick. Guys, if you need an Airbnb managed, hit up this man. He's probably also buying houses in Florida and maybe other places if you want to shout that out. And then follow him on an Instagram. Like, this guy is doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Hung, like, thank you so much for coming on. I know you had this, you wanted to see Pace. So like the fact you came on at all means a lot. It truly does. So what else? What's the last thing you want to say to the people?
The last thing I want to say to the people is make intentional the word of the year for you. Like, do everything with intention this year. Don't let like life just pulls you and blows you in whichever way it goes, like a leaf in the wind. Because you like, I think Jim Rohn says, right? He says, if you don't know where you're going in 5 years, then you're already there, right? Yep. And so know where it is that you're going, and honestly, find some people like Jonah here to make friends with and have lifelong relationship with, because it's gonna be super fun. And the journey is now, looking back now, like the journey is literally one of the coolest thing ever that I've been able to meet. So some amazing people that I've came across, and that's Jonah included. And so please, like, make a lot of friends. Like, a lot of people say it's lonely at the top. Like, that's so BS. Like, I have so many great friends.
Not really. Not when you're not in real estate. In real estate, we're all partying at the top.
Exactly. So it's like, I love this industry, and honestly, it's more fun with friends. And so get your friends, find your tribe, find your friend, and lock arms with them and go very, very far. And you're gonna have a blast. And just enjoy the journey.
I love it. Thank you so much, my man. Next week, we got Abraham Gray coming on. That's going to be a really cool, fun one. He's a beast. Also, it's just so cool. Like, I love this podcast because I get to just talk to cool people all the time, just like Hung. So, yeah, that Abraham Gray is next week, 5 p.m. PST. Guys, thank you so much, Hung. Thank you guys so much. Let's freaking go!